Alright guys, hope you're doing good. We're here with another KC Music Talk, talking to musicians about all sorts of stuff going around town, and I'm your host Rob Foster, and today we've got a basically band leader, I guess you could call him, a guitar player and a piano player I saw the other day, and a singer, David Williamson. How you doing?
It's nice to be here, thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. So we met a while ago. I think we came up to, what's that one on Quivira? Did me and Scott come up? Was it you that had an open mic night?
Oh
there?
yeah. Actually, it was. I believe that you guys came to my open mic at the Red Room.
Oh, okay. It was the Red Room. Yeah, I remember there.
Yeah, in Overland Park, and that's actually that open mic has moved to Callahan, so that's it's exactly the same open mic that I'm running now. But just changed locations.
How are you liking doing that?
Really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. I am I'm one of the luckiest open mic hosts in town. I can say that. I'm lucky that we get some really good musicians to come up and share their time and share their talents with us, and I'm overjoyed with that and really appreciative. We get guys at every level, right, of their musical development. I've got some guys who come up who are not gigging, never have gigged. I've got some guys who come up who are working musicians who are working every week. It's really nice that we've built a little musical family, that we support each other and steal licks from each other and talk. And
you don't steal licks from people.
Oh, of course I do. But okay, I borrow them, right? Long term. Yeah, we have a pretty good time. It's a good situation.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Later I want to get back to the open jams, but tell us a little bit about who the heck you are, what you've done, and all that stuff.
Okay. Well, as far as my musical journey, it pretty much started at birth for me. I'm originally from Atlanta, and when I was a boy, my father ran an independent music company, music publishing, Kofi Beat Music Publishing, Tusker Records, and also did Tusker Promotions. The biggest band he ever booked was the Pointer Sisters.
Okay.
But he also, he had signed some acts to the label, Richard Marx, Barbara Hall, and so, when I was 6 years old, I was in recording studios, in the middle of the night with my dad, hanging out with professional musicians. Kind of broke my heart, my dad's heart, that business did, and he actually ended up leaving it. Lost a lot of money, ended up leaving the business. But I kept the love for music, and it's always been something that I've always done. Hasn't always been my day job, isn't my day job now, but has always been something that I have I've done. I've taught music, I've taught guitar, taught piano. I've played in a couple of bands in town. I played with Yes Janet, I think was probably, I played with Yes Janet, I played with Blind McGeich, two of my more popular bands that I was in town. Oh, the Blooms Brothers as well. And I've been playing solo in town off and on for about 20 years now, and that's primarily where I'm hanging out these days, is hosting the open mic and picking up the occasional solo gig and playing around.
Cool, man.
So
So what exactly did your dad? You said publishing. I mean, he wasn't doing sheet music and stuff like that, was he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we did. We actually did sheet music publishing, but along with that, he was handling the recording rights for music that was recorded.
Oh, okay, yeah. See, I haven't talked to very many people. I've had one guy on that was in the publishing era. We haven't talked about stuff like that. That's like a whole nother deal that a lot of people don't deal with.
It really is, and it's an amazing thing that in this day and age, we're seeing a lot of self-published musicians, right? Where what they're doing is that they've got a lot of software and You know, they're buying the mics and hopping on the computers and doing their stuff at home, compressing it, getting their mix together, and then they're going straight to the public with it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're going straight to the public with it, as long as you are handling your copyrights and making sure all of that's okay, then that's great. But back in the day, you know, you signed with a record label, and when you signed with a record label, there were certain rights that belonged to you, certain rights that belonged to the label, and certain rights that belonged to the publishing company, right? And those all got split up and divvied up in various ways.
And got gray to the musician a little bit, right?
Right,
Yeah, they
yeah.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so we're dealing with a little different day and age right now, but I mean, the business in and of itself still works the same way if you're a signed artist with you know, if you're signed with CBS or you know, one of the big guns.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. I mean, it's tough. I've talked to so many musicians about the ability to make money,
Sure.
you know, and you have another day job too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I work for the large healthcare software company in town, in the Kansas City area, the one that begins with a C.
Yeah.
I'm an engineer. I'm an engineer with those guys.
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah.
That keeps the lights on.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot, about people's opinions about, because I heard some people at college, because I was in that whole academia world, and they were talking about, like, most of us aren't going to become Aerosmith and Justin Bieber, you know, but if you want to get up to a point where you're gigging with like a pretty large band that's doing like let's say larger things than like Kansas State Fair or something, where you can get those like 12 to 2,000, you know, a gig kind of shows.
Sure.
They were saying that you basically got to decide during college that I'm going to practice for a year and I'm basically not going to eat. You know, I mean, you got to just kind of go for it hard and do nothing, you know, besides for, of course, all of your other years of practicing, but you kind of got to go for it and then take a risk of doing it. And I don't know, there's probably more than I don't know, but there is hardly anybody that gigs completely full time. I knew another guy, Chris Foster.
Sure.
He was doing 40 retirement home a month. Sure. You know, I mean, he had his circuit, and so he was, you know, who knows? I mean, you know, making probably 40 to 50 just gigging, and he was able to kind of do it. I know Alani McFadden is able to kind of go full, you know, but hardly anybody. Everybody has to have their music director at a church, work at a music shop,
Right.
teach, or UPS, you know, their random other job. Like, what's your opinion on trying to do this full time or having a day job?
Okay, so it's kind of funny. I've got a friend who I know this guy gigs very regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He could quit his day job and make it as a working musician, and I know that he could. I know what gigs he's got, and I have a pretty good idea of what they pay. He doesn't. He keeps that day job. You know, people don't think about it, but music is it's not just it's an expensive avocation to have. I mean, if you are running the music business as your only business, then you know you still have to eat, you still have to clothe yourself, you still have to shelter yourself, and you have to insure yourself, right?
Just kidding.
Well, yeah, you know, people get sick. People have cars. You know, all of the things that cost money. Most of us who are musicians, I have found it's a really interesting thing. Most of us who are musicians, I've found we do it because we love it and because we have to.
Yeah, right.
I
Spiritually, or something, you
Sure.
know. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I've actually tried to quit. I truly did try to quit. When you know, when my daughter was small, I understood that in order to give her the life that I wanted her to have, that I was not going to be able to do that as a working musician alone unless I was in the upper echelon, which I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I wasn't willing to risk her future to try to get there. Once I made that decision, you know, I truly did. I thought I truly thought that I was done with music, period, and that was 30 years ago. As she got older, I found that I still had the bug to play, and you know, she was, I think, 6 years old when I started going, well, maybe I'll go to this open mic, or maybe I'll go jam with these guys, maybe I'll just go.
Two famous last words,
Yeah,
man.
maybe I'll just go see what they're doing over there. And several tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment later, you know, tens of thousands of miles, and you know, several thousand shows later, yeah, I'm still doing it because I love it.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm trying to become rich. It's because I love it.
Right.
That being said, there are people who have talent. There are people who can become rich. There are people who can make it on their talent. There's people who can also make it just because they're in the right place at the right time. So.
And their looks.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a, you know, yeah. I met Scott, who you know that I play with, Scott Lane. Him and I have been going back and forth. It's been, I think, maybe even 6 or 7 years now with me and him, and we've been going back and forth between the band and the duo. Okay. Just, you know, like emotionally, you know, like, and there's, you know, way funner with the band. Sure. Just there's more people and you get to do bigger shows and stuff, but it's harder for sure to find places. It's definitely harder to pick songs. He can just throw crap at me on the gig that I've never even played before, you know, and so we can get through more songs, but the songs are more fun because we have a drummer and a bass, you know, and so I know that you said in the past that you've done some full, you know, more full band, and I know now it sounds like you're doing probably more, you know, solo kind of stuff. What do you think about that?
Well, okay, I actually made the decision to work as a solo. So one of I've had a couple of bands that just as we got to the point where we were moving toward regional success, we broke up. That kind of breaks your heart when you've put a lot of time and effort into something. You're starting to put out original songs as a band. And you're getting, you know, you're getting some recognition and you're getting some of the larger gigs, and then the band just kind of falls. That kind of hurts a little bit. And then I've also been in a couple of bands where things just did not necessarily gel, right? Bands are kind of like marriages, right? In the respect that your entire future together is dependent upon your past together. How well you practice, how well you guys get along, how well you promote together, how well you work together, how well you work the business together. And if you're not able to do that, right, if you have any dysfunction in that mix, it's not a good thing. And I have found that it's difficult to keep a band functioning on all of those levels and firing on all of those cylinders at the same time. That's not to say that I won't ever be in a band again, but a band would have to be very special for me to consider it at this point. Because as I said, I've done it enough times now that I want to be with a band that clicks. So,
Sure.
But that's a personal preference too.
Sure.
I know that, you know, I'm also I'm a vocalist, I'm a rhythm guitarist, and I don't necessarily always need a band as far as being able to work. And I don't need a band to express myself musically. I will also say that. So
Right.
I know that there are some musicians that don't have that luxury. If you're a drummer, you kind of need other musicians to
Can't do solo gigs. It just
Right.
doesn't work. Yeah.
Exactly. So, you're a bass player. You're a single horn player. It's kind of tough. So, but I'm very lucky in that regard, and I know it. I did make that choice, but I'm also lucky to be able to make that choice.
I've been saying on the show that I have somewhat of an agenda for this show. Is there's a couple of these topics of why I wanted to do the show and kind of get a discussion, a city discussion about this going, and one of them is why bands break up is just pissing me off. It just frustrates me that there's so many people in town. We've had this discussion with a bunch of different people about, would you take a talented but flaky 10, over as a band leader, really flaky but really, really talented, over a 6 who answers the phone every time and super reliable, 6'7", you know what I'm saying? And I've heard 6'7".
I take 6-7.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah,
Every time.
and it frustrates me that so many of I've been listening to these couple guys online, and they're talking about personality traits, and there's this dichotomy of like orderliness and then openness, and the creative people are very high in openness. They're extremely creative, they're outside the box. Sometimes they can get away with not following the rules all the time, and that's how they get through. But the orderly people are rules and boundaries and structure, categories. There's just a kind of type of personality, and the 6'7" is more orderly, and we've all known multiple people that are extremely creative, and I can't do what they do. Their brain just is on a whole nother, their right brain, right? They're very emotional, creative and stuff, and it always frustrates me that it feels like just how, I don't know, God or whoever you want to call it, kind of makes that at the cost of the other, and that pisses me off. That it seems like, why can't it's rare, you can find it, but there's like the NBA, you'll find those kind of people, right? The very, very hardworking but extremely talented, and but that just frustrates me that all the people that I want to be not flaky or flaky, it's just ugh.
Well, it's kind of funny that you would say that, because I was thinking, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about two things. One, I was speaking with my wife yesterday about Frank Zappa. It was Mother's Day, right? And I came up with a very bad Zappa joke that I was going to start a Zappa tribute band and call it Necessity, because necessity is the mother of invention, right? So, bad joke. But in doing so, and talking with my wife about Frank Zappa, she was like, well, I mean, he's like a hippie, right? He was like a drug addict, right? Because his music's all just strange, and that's absolutely not true.
That's not what I heard, that he was doing drugs all the time. Yeah.
Frank Zappa hated drugs. Was very, very super well organized, super into the business, worked the business side of things. The man's estate still has rights to over 120 albums. Right?
Yeah.
So
writing fiend, right? I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so you can find a creative talent that also is orderly. It can be done. But in listening to you think about the rareness of it, I also was just thinking that one of the last band situations, it never actually became a band. And one of the reasons why it didn't become a band was because the lead guitar player pawned his guitar. He had his reasons, whatever those were. And then he asked me to borrow a guitar for practice, which, like, okay, fine, I'll loan me guitar for practice, and then he asked me if I would allow him to take that guitar home. And that was my last practice, because it's like, dude, if you will sell your equipment, what will you do with mine? Right? I mean, I am able to understand that logic, right? And apparently he was not, and was upset because I wouldn't trust him. I couldn't, right?
Yeah.
So
They put you in that situation, and you're like,
yeah,
yeah, you know, like, yeah.
and that's why bands break up. It's
Yeah.
because eventually, if you have members of your band that are putting you in situations where you can't trust them, it's hard for to continue as anything, you know, as any type of combination of artistic, you know, talent together, right? If you can't trust the people you're playing with, you never get the groove right.
Right.
The groove's not there.
Right.
And you're worried, you know, are they going to get too drunk at the gig? Oh, are they going to show up for the gig? Oh, did they bring their gear? Did he pawn his guitar?
I know.
Is he fighting with the drummer, or is she fighting with the drummer? Did they actually talk to the house? You know, have they confirmed the gig? You know, all of those things that go into a band being successful, somebody's usually responsible for them. And if you can't trust those people that are responsible, that's hard to do.
Right. Yeah, I found that I was talking with Lonnie McFadden about this a long time ago, and then on the show is that like who's the leader here?
Right.
You know, and once in a while, some bands can get away with it. If you have the right set of personalities, that it is more sort of like democratic, and everybody has kind of a, you know, sizable say in what's going on.
Sure.
But a lot of times you do have to have kind of like when it's Lonnie McFadden's band, there's no question here. There's not even a discussion about that, because everybody already understands, and you kind of, he's hiring me, not he's gonna get on my program and all this, you know, all that crap. You know, you never have to deal with that, and I found that bands, most of the time, it's just like it's communication and personality differences is most of the reason why they, not all the time, and it's just frustrating that are we going to play this like the original? What songs are we going to play? You know, not where, but are we going to gig? Are we going to sit for 6 months and rehearse? You know, it's like, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like the communication's just complete garbage a lot of the times, and everybody's like, oh, all these people out here don't respect us, and I'm like, yeah, but you guys don't know what you want. You don't know what you're doing. You haven't had discussions, like, you know. So.
Well, you do have to. The thing about that, the communication becomes a matter of. Not only do you have to have good communications within the band, but you've got to have good communications within the band, and then present that to the public, whether it be the people who are listening to you or the venues that are hiring you. When you present that, whatever communications you've had as a band, that has to come out as one voice. It's got to come out as one steady stream of communication, right? It is a business, right? The music business in this town, it truly is a business. You brand, you market, you do exactly what any other business does. So if you have poor communications as a band, that marketing piece doesn't happen to the venues well, right? So you don't get the great gigs. You don't get the best gigs. And then when you don't get the best gigs, then you show up and then you play and you don't play well, and then you go even further down the list, right? Right? And it spirals. It spirals. It's a spiraling. And it's self-fulfilling prophecy for the most part.
So here's another question. So now you've made this kind of decision to do more on your own a little bit. I've heard so many when I first got into town, I had a lot of these conversations with people, and now I realize that I was talking. I think I was basically talking to a lot of bitter people. You know, they're these club owners, and the public just hates music now, and and they were just like bitching. I mean, just and now after talking with other people that. What's that phrase? Oh, right, that are gigging. I get a totally different tune. The guys who have no gigs and they're and then talk to people like Lonnie McFadden, and he has a whole nother view on that thing about this is his view is this is a freaking team. This is a business. They're trying to serve alcohol and food, and and so like. And I had so many conversations, and I think this was also from being in academia, because there was such this, and I'll just say it, and I don't care who doesn't like it, is there was a nose up in the air kind of a thing when I was at academia, some for good reason, because there's some garbage players out there that need to get better and stuff, but there's other parts where people are like, I'm going to have my integrity, and I'm only playing originals. I'm only going to do jazz. Screw the public and all this, and so, and then I meet people like Lonnie, and definitely Scott falls in this category, who are definitely way more, if you had to pick, what would you call it, like, bleeding artist on one end of the spectrum, and entertainer on the other, they're more this way than that way, and so, like, with your... Do you think about that kind of stuff when you're picking songs?
So I've got several hundred songs in my playlist that I work through. When I'm picking songs, I typically will try to make sure that if I've been to a house before, I kind of base it on my feel from the house. But if I haven't, for instance, I played Brew Lab this week and had never played there before. Okay, I went through several standards, and then on the fly, as I'm looking at the house and looking at the reaction that I'm getting from the house, looking at the ages of the people from the stage. Don't play the songs with the swear words in it when you've got the table with 4 kids sitting right in front of the stage.
What was the age of that place in particular?
So the age group of that show went from about 70 to about 8 when that show started. By the time the show ended, I had a house that had an average age of about 30.
So it went way lower.
As the night went on.
Yeah, that's silly, right? When you have that kind of, you're just like,
So I was able to grab songs, and because I do play such a wide variety of music, I was able to go, okay, well, okay, we're getting younger. Okay, let's grab some of the newer stuff and throw that in. Okay, Black Pumas works here. So does Keiko, and well, Amy Winehouse will go here. Whereas I started the night with Eagles and stuff that's popular to a broader range of people. Right? And so I guess the bottom line answer to the question is yes, I absolutely take into consideration what the house is going to like, because I want to get hired, I want to come back. It is a business. There is no doubt it's a business. Now, I will say, I'm not working as much as Lonnie, right? But I work as much as I want to work.
Yeah, sure.
It's not that I can gig more. I'm not going to say I choose not to work more. I choose not to work as hard, which does limit my opportunities for gigs, and I know that. If I were to beat on a few more doors, I'd get more gigs. Because I have done the marketing work. Got a good website, by the way, davidwilliamsonmusic.com.
We'll put a link in the description so everybody can check that out. Yeah, I remember me and Scott did a gig, and it was this happened a couple of times, like when we were out at Patio Quigley's,
Mm-hmm.
right, 151st Street, so straight up middle of Leawood, basically, and then we did another gig, and this was right on Ward Parkway, right, 60th, 55th, right, you know, so right in, you know, Rich Central right there, and so we showed up, and we just see, you know, khaki, you know, we're like, okay, this is an Eagles night, you know, like, we were just joking with each other, you know, and then we'll go in another place where we're all like, oh yeah, this is Lukemont, Texas night, you know, or, you know, so, you know, this is more country crowd, this is more Eagles, you know, Doobie Brothers all night and stuff, and, yeah.
You know, yeah, interesting you should say that. So I've been lucky enough to spend some time playing with you and Scott, right? Scott threw out a bunch of bluegrass, even some old gospel stuff at me. It was like, hey, this is kind of cool to be able to jump in on that stuff and sing those harmonies. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and it's nice to play with musicians who have that kind of caliber and have that kind of range, that they can go, oh, we're playing jazz? Okay, let's play jazz. Oh, we're playing pop? Let's play pop. We're playing blues? Let's play blues. We're playing bluegrass? Okay. Let's play bluegrass.
Right. I'm gonna move this camera. It's hitting you too close. Does it go on me?
Sorry.
No. That's fine. I put it in a stupid spot. All right, let's try that a little better. That's fine. But yeah, like Scott's weird because he doesn't have a whole lot of range in the sense of things like jazz. You know, he doesn't. You know, he can't do stuff like that. But the kind of genre stuff that he knows, it's hundreds. You know, I mean, he's like, oh, Conway Twitty, giddy up. You know, and he's just like, and he just blasts out 3 Conway Twitty. You know, he'll have these random people that I've never even heard of. You know, but yeah, it's funny because maybe the people that I was talking to earlier on were a lot more younger people too, and not always, but they and I, you know, I'm trying to not get into this, but they were a definitely type of breed of person too that were, you know, really annoyed that this is a business. You know, they were those people that, you know, kind of, and I won't even, you know, go too much farther, but they were, you know, they were not happy that everything is consumerism and capitalism. You know, I mean, if you understand what I'm saying. So I was hearing that, a lot of those voices, and then when I was over talking to these guys, they're like, you know, the bars got to make money, man. Like, you know, like, I know you don't like it.
If the bars aren't making money, if we don't have venues to play at, and it, as much as I love playing, I can play at home and not get paid. I can play at home and not get paid. And actually, the truth of the matter is, it would be a heck of a lot easier and less expensive on me as a human being to never leave my house with a musical instrument.
Right.
I'm starting to get old. You know, old musicians never die; they just get lighter equipment. And I am in the lighter equipment stage, and that's fine. But because I play out because I enjoy playing out, not because I'm trying to get rich anymore, but because I enjoy playing out. But if the venue owners aren't making money, right, then there's no place for us to play anyway. Right? The doors are closed. And you can look at places like Westport, where when I moved into this town, there were 10 live music venues in Westport.
Now there's basically 0.
There's none now, right?
Yeah. That's a bummer with what's his face, Travis.
Yeah,
you know,
Travis had a great house and did a wonderful job. And
Westport Saloon we're talking about.
And you know, having that place close, it's brutal. But even before Travis, I mean, there were houses that have been here forever, for decades.
Is Riot Room still going?
You know, I don't know.
Riot Room was another one. I forgot about Riot Room.
Yeah, but the Emporium's closed. William Saunders started one of the nicer little bars to play, and he was only open for a couple of years, but a little place called Coda was just a great house for musicians. It was a house built by a musician for musicians, And unfortunately, we couldn't keep it going for him. We tried, but there are some houses that have stood the test of time. I mean, BB's is still there. Knuckleheads, of course, is this Knuckleheads. Carl out in the Gospel Lounge. Those guys are still here, but they won't be if they don't have solid musical acts going in, right? And a solid musical act is, somebody, when they book the show, they're going to show up, right? They show up on time, they show up with their gear, they show up ready to play, right? They, if there's a sound check to be done, they do their sound check, have a beer, but don't get drunk on stage, If you are a drug user, I suggest not playing while under the influence, but that's me, because I treat it like a business, right? But I treat at least that portion of it like a business,
right? I struggle with, because I've been watching so much of this stuff online about like personality and philosophy and stuff. A lot of people have been talking about, and this is sort of a bigger point about, they talked about this idea of internal and external control. And just for the audience, external people, they're not really going to ever like put stuff on them. It's always, this guy was joking that my life is crappy, which one of you is to blame? You can tell which side he was on of this, but then there's also internal control where you're kind of taking, it's not that everything is your fault, but you have some little bit of control of what's going on in your life. And I think, those other people that I was talking about, they were talking about, if the public would just, if the music scene would just, if the club owners would just, and they were saying a lot of those kinds of phrases. And if you're looking at it from a psychology standpoint, that's anybody but me is the reason for this problem right now. And it's tough because I'm torn between those things, because a lot of the internal people tend to say, if you just pull yourself, by your bootstraps, but we have to also remember that at the same time, I remember even, guys like you talking about the 90s, and a buddy of mine, I mentioned this on the show all the time, he's like, we were in a terrible band and we were gigging 5 nights a week easy. And so I'm stuck between the scene is changed, but everybody is bitching a lot, and there's guys that are gigging a lot and they're not completely bitching all the time. So what are they doing that this person over here isn't? They're both right in a sense, and I'm struggling with that, if you understand my question,
So, here's the thing, the scene has changed. Like I said, a lot of the houses have closed up, a lot of the venues are gone, and that makes for more competition for less stages, right?
Yeah.
I've got, but I happen to also know that if you are willing to do the legwork and you are willing to pound the pavement, that there are gigs to be had. Now, as far as whether people are going out, they are. I've got a core group of people who listen to me play. Do they come to every gig? No.
Sure.
And bands want to think that they're going to get all of their following to come to every show every time.
Yeah, that's not happening.
That just doesn't happen, right? Right? And you can invite 150 people to the show, and if 5 of them show up, it's been a good night, right?
Yeah.
But it's your job to entertain that 5 just as if there were 500 or if there were 5,000, right? And if there were 5 more that the house provided, it's your job to entertain them too, and to pull them into your fold, right? Like I said, I played a house I'd never played before last week. I did my best to make friends, make fans, and make it an enjoyable experience for all. But has the scene changed? Yeah, it has. Less houses, and sometimes the gigs are harder to get. And I will also say that the COVID thing, it hurt. It hurt bad. The occasional gig kind of went out the window with COVID. And the reason for that is there were a series of guys who did not take off. There were some guys who said, I'm going to continue to work. And any houses that were keeping music through COVID had a steady supply from that group of guys. And I don't blame them for keeping their gigs. They protected themselves, the houses protected them, and they worked through it. And they're being rewarded for it now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They're being rewarded for it now because they have locked onto some pretty solid business, and I can't blame them at all for doing that.
Right.
Again, hard times, but well done. I happen to know a young man who, a couple of young men who, looping musicians, single acts, doubles, who worked really well through COVID. I also know a bunch of guys like me. I didn't work at all for a year and a half.
Yeah. No.
However, once I started working again, I managed to pick up enough gigs.
Yeah. And you were probably ready for it. You didn't want the break, but I think a lot of people were kind of, in a weird way okay with it, because now they come back and they're sort of like ready, so there's like, lemonade and lemons, kind of thing. And it's tough to, there is the perfect example of why that is the reason why you do your day gig, right, for things like that, obviously, is that you're not completely fucked, is like you want to, it's tough, and you don't want to do the painting and the UPS, right, and the, all these other jobs, but,
right,
And yeah.
I'm very lucky that I managed to pick up some skills that are also in demand, yeah, but that is why I do it. Those pay the bills, right?
Yeah.
And I can, but on the same token, interestingly enough, at one point in my life I was without a day gig, right? And if I needed to make money, I've got a guitar. I can always make money.
Right.
I can always make money.
Right.
I may not make the amount of money I want, but I can always make some.
Yeah, I think I've always thought of Kansas City as still sort of the Wild West in a sense out here, that if you're decent, somebody will give you a $50 to $100 gig, though, especially a solo act. Yeah, I mean, you can find them still here, and it's
Absolutely.
it's not like Nashville or Austin where it's pretty saturated now and there's people lined up, but here there's still places that'll if you come in off the street and you talk to them, they'll do something for you,
Absolutely. If you're willing to play a patio, not take a whole lot of power from them.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of houses that'll take it.
Yeah. So last couple things here is that you said, so we've talked about jams kind of ad nauseum on the show. I've talked to a lot of people. That was another one of those topics that I wanted to have a discussion about. And we talked to it about the other day, and our discussion that we've had is, so the question that I put on the table to most people is that should there be a baseline of ability before you get up at a jam, is the question on the table. And I've heard a lot of different arguments for it. On the one side, I've definitely heard that you sucked too, Rob. Stop it, right? You sucked too. Somebody gave you a chance, and so this is for everybody. We're all in this together. Kind of a vibe I'm getting from some people, and then I'm also hearing from some people maybe a little bit more of what you're talking about. Of, well, hold on, this house band's getting paid tonight. There's people here, and they, if this person, turns up to 11 on stage and starts acting silly and stuff, that's my ass, not yet. And so and it's a hardcore philosophy, it's a brutal hierarchical kind of philosophy, and a lot of people don't like that. They want us to we're all in this together. Okay. But what do you think about jams, and in particular yours?
Okay. Well, first of all, mine is less of a jam. Mine is more of an open mic,
right,
which lends itself toward a learning curve. Okay. the way that I attempt to run mine anyway is that for the first 2.5 hours, it is very structured to sign up. He who shows up, signs up, gets to play. They get their 3, 4, depending on the night. They get their 3 or 4 songs, and they play them, and then they're off the stage. And then the last half hour, last hour, last 2 hours, okay, until the bar closes, whatever. Then it becomes a jam session, right? And because I do run it that way, there's the ability for a learning curve. Okay? Some of the guys who are less experienced get to play, their set. They get to learn from some of the other guys who, as they're playing their set. They get to see what kind of experience is going to be on stage with the jams, and then they gotta go, I think I'm gonna fade out, right?
You hope that they are,
if they're
aware enough,
right? And if they don't have that self-awareness, unfortunately, I, as the host, have to kind of encourage them to have that. I don't know if you were at
courage.
I had a guy, a harmonica player, show up not too long ago, and the guy was great. The guy was great until he was like maybe a few beers in, and he got up after his set, right, with another guy, and like, and I'm hearing like, what? Guitarist and vocalist is playing in G, harmonica is playing in E. That's not quite the way that cross harp is supposed to work. So that's when you walk up and you whisper into his ear, hey man, you got the wrong harp, and why don't we go over here? And I got him off the stage, which that's my job, right?
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be an enjoyable night for everybody.
Right.
A well-aware musician wouldn't have A, been playing with the wrong key, B, hopped up when he wasn't invited, C, been too drunk to figure out which was the right key. So there's something to be said about having the experience. On the same token, I do believe that everybody's got to learn, and everybody's got to learn somewhere, and everybody's constantly learning. Okay, which I don't know that everybody has that idea, but I go to a jam session to play with musicians that are better than I am. And I'm not a bad musician, but when I go to a jam session, I want to play with guys who are better than I am. Every time, right? I can't every time. Sometimes I'm the better guy, all right? Okay, if I'm the better guy, I owe the guy that's learning from me the same amount of courtesy as the guy that I'm learning from.
That's a good argument. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I look at guys. I don't know if you've talked with John Sanders, but John has one of the best left hands I've ever seen. every time
He's a guitar player?
Yes, guitar player. Every time he's on a stage, I'm just looking, going,
Yeah.
okay,
Holy crap.
what do I got? Okay, what'd you do? Okay. Oh, my hands won't do that.
Right.
But every time he's on stage, I look, right, to see what he's doing, and every time he's on stage, I learn a little bit of something from him. I would like to hope that if a rookie's in my house, that they're learning a little bit of something from me too.
Right. What I'm fascinated by is the conversation that you had with the harmonica player. See, that's the stuff that fascinates me, is that I've said this on the show a bunch of times, we hear what you heard, he's in whatever key, and he's supposed to be in G and whatever, and he doesn't know any songs, and this guy comes up, and then what happens is we all go to the back of the house, and we're all sitting there talking about him, and then nobody talks to him. That's stuff that pisses me off, and I get it. I've had 100 conversations about this. I understand why people are, they're trying not to make waves. They want people to come back, and stuff. But like, I'm just really curious. the tone, the words, what I'm curious if you can even remember, like, just as an example of what did you say to him and how did he take it?
Well, I went up, put my arm around him, leaned down, and said, "Hey, man, you're not in the right key. Do you have your harps up here?" He's like, "No, they're off stage." I'm like, "Well, you're off key, so why don't we walk off and if you can find the right one, you know, come on back. But if not, hang back or try the next song next set."
Yeah.
I
And
I-
did he go okay?
Yeah,
I mean, did he come back up? Or?
Yeah, he went okay. He got off stage, and unfortunately, he didn't come back up any time that night. But he has been back.
Mm-hmm.
He has been back, and he's played. I am of the feeling, and it's just me. I don't know if it's me personally, but I'm a what you see is what you get kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to. I've got some really good friends who are gigging musicians. I happened to walk into their gig at one house, and I heard them, and I had one beer, and I turned around and I left because I couldn't stand their sound. Right?
What about their sound?
It wasn't mixed right, and it just wasn't. I don't know what they were hearing on stage, but what I was hearing up front was not great. Okay. Now, it wasn't because they were bad musicians, right? All three of the musicians on stage are excellent musicians. Excellent musicians, right? I knew I couldn't fix their sound right then. That doesn't mean that I didn't talk with them and go, "Hey,
Not hearing that guitar coming out or whatever the thing is, right? Yeah.
You know, you guys were not mixed right for that house. You know, what have you guys looked at this? I don't know what you were hearing on stage, but you need to get somebody out front to give you." And I went back to see them at that same house. About, I guess it was maybe 2 months later. Sound was perfect. And
Way better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listened all night and really enjoyed them.
Yeah.
If I can give a working band that kind of courtesy, right? I should be able to do the same thing for somebody who's up and coming. Right? And here's the thing: not everybody that plays an open mic wants to be a musician.
Right.
And not everybody that plays an open mic is going to be a musician. But I will tell you this. There's all sorts of levels of people who play at open mics. One of the things that I didn't mention about my background is when my dad's heart got broken with the record company, he went to work for a large corporation, and we ended up moving to the Washington D.C. area.
Okay.
And I played open mics in the D.C. area. I played on Tinley Circle, DuPont Circle, down in Georgetown, and when I was playing my open mics during that era, I was playing with a young lady that other people might know. Her name's Tori Amos. Tori was the member of that crew that made it, right? She was super good, right? She was super lucky. She was super driven, and she she worked the business. I didn't. I had a kid. I got happy. I got married. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
I've had a great life. Tori has had a great life and a great career, right? But we all started playing those open mics together.
Right.
There are some other guys that were from our class and from our open mics that, they put their guitars in their closets 30 years ago and 40 years ago and haven't pulled them out since.
Yeah.
It's not the business for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not a life for everybody, but everybody, if you're going to give it a try, even just for a night, deserve a little bit of respect.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Yeah.
And that's the way I feel about it. Now, that's from an open mic point of view. believe it or not, I actually have a different feeling about jams. Because when you're trying to meld with the talent on stage, you can hang or you can't. And if you don't think you can hang, don't run with the big dogs if you can't, if you can't get off the porch. Is what my grandfather used to say. If you're going to go up to the Knuckleheads Jam, better be able to run. You're going to show up. You're going to show up at Bake Shop on Wednesday night, or McGuire's on Wednesday night. Better be able to play.
Yeah.
Those guys can run.
Especially Foundation and Blue Room.
Foundation.
Those guys.
I'm not
I always tell everybody.
I know great musicians that won't step up there.
Oh yeah, and I was barely, I've played at the Foundation maybe 7 times, maybe at their very late night jam, and I was, if I got to call my own tunes, I was like in their league. But if they called it to, those guys were way better at jazz than I was. But I've told everybody, when I go to jams, I have, I'm hustling. It's fun, but. I'm trying to get known in town. I want to meet people to come on the show or to gig with or whatever. So if I had a choice, I'd get up with Dave Hayes and Paul Greenlease, and I'd get up with the house band every single time if I had a choice. Like you were talking about, get up with guys that are better than you or whatever, and not even about better, but it's like these guys got it, and they're going to be on their parts, and they're going to pick songs that are great, and there's going to be no nonsense, and we're going to destroy this song, and so.
Exactly.
So
that's what we all want. Every time I hit the stage, I want to think I'm going to own it, right? And if I don't think I'm going to own it, I personally don't get up, or at least I try not to.
Right. Well, so we're probably wrapping up here. I always give everybody a chance to, if they have any really hilarious gig stories or any moments that were horrible or great or. Because people usually love those. I don't know if you can think of any off the top of your head that were insane or anything,
Well, I've got a few. I did spend some time traveling around in a van with 4 other guys. But I think the most hilarious one was when my ex-wife showed up for one of my gigs, and some random gal decided that I was the one for her for that night. That did not go well for her or for me or for my ex-wife.
She was your wife at the time?
That didn't go well for my ex-wife or for me or for the random gal. But
so what happened? Was there kind of a screaming match?
There was a bit of a screaming match and a little hair pulling, and it's like, wow, I've never had women fight over me. I haven't had women fight over me since then either. But it was absolutely hilarious until it wasn't. Until it wasn't.
Yeah, that's funny when wives come to gigs,
sure,
or they get kind of involved. Scott, he's always joking about you go on the road trip and the one girlfriend was with the singer, but now she comes back off the trip and now she's with the bass player, or something. It's the love thing with bands and stuff is really kind of hilarious and
always is hilarious. There was a period of time where I would not touch a band that had a girl in it.
Interesting. Why?
Early band, when I was a teenager, the girl singer started out dating the lead guitar player and ended up dating the bass player.
Yeah, so that's the same thing. Yeah, that's funny.
And that band broke up horribly.
Yeah, they're not going to take that well. Yeah, that's funny, man. That's cool, but it was really. I'll speak for Scott. It was really fun to have you out the other time when you came out to our jam, and we had a lot of fun coming and playing at yours too, and it was really fun because your voice is definitely higher than mine. So when you were doing some of the high thirds and stuff, because we always just have two of us, you know, so it was fun to do the 3-part harmony, and you're a good singer yourself,
Oh,
you know,
thank
and
you.
so it was fun to do those three-part kind of stuff.
It was amazing to me as well. I really enjoyed it. And you guys have a lot more confidence in my high end than I do. But I appreciate it. Always, it's always been a pleasure playing with you. You're a talented man in your own right.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
I absolutely appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, no problem, man.
This has been a great conversation.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
thanks, man. Yeah, a lot of people don't want to have these, but I've met a bunch of, like, I've proven it on the show that they're like, oh, I have something to say about it. You know, their eyes get really big. Oh, and they're, you know, can see their face. They're like, oh God, I want to say something about that so bad. So I'm like, you need to come on the show. But anyway.
Well, here's the thing. I always have thought of myself as a what you see is what you get kind of guy, and I won't say anything about anybody that I wouldn't say to them, right? Or at least I'd like to feel that way, right? And I think that there is room for improvement in the Kansas City area for venues, for musicians, for audiences. There's room for improvement, right? And we won't get that if we're not able to have conversations like this.
That's what I think. I don't think anybody's going to know what to do, you know, if they don't know what's wrong and be willing to listen and fix it, you know, so. Last thing, tell them your website and what you're doing one more time. And then
DavidWilliamsonmusic.com, really easy, DavidWilliamson music.com. David Williamson Music on Facebook, and playing around town. Callahan's, I host the open mic there first Sunday of every month. You might find me at Brew Lab, you might find me, next gig is going to be at Deep Roots over in Turner. Looking forward to that, another new venue. So
cool, man. Thanks for coming on. Yep, it's Dave Williamson. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks,
Get out of here. We're done. See you later.